Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And coming up in the next hour, we'll be talking with former Congressman Tom Reed. We've got a lot to cover with him. As you know, there's a lot of news out there, and we're going to get to as much as we possibly can. Starting off with some odd stories, if we will. This is not necessarily odd, just maybe noteworthy. The U.S. Postal Service wants to yet again raise the price of stamps. The federal agency requested Tuesday to mark up the price of a first-class stamp from 68 cents to 73 cents. Forever stamps have cost 68 cents only since January, when the USPS last jacked up the price from 66 cents. While the response has not been overwhelmingly happy, many complaining that it's a sign of the economy, and even though, and I know we talk about this a lot, even though things are supposed to be good, we just don't experience the goodness. Everything's supposed to be hunky-dory. Everything's supposed to be great, but then you see constant cost increases. The newest round of proposed adjustments also includes a 3-cent jump for domestic postcards, a 10-cent jump for international letters, as well as unspecified hikes for certified mail and money order fees. Although seemingly minuscule, the extra nickel and pennies could raise mailing service product prices by as much as 7.8%. If approved by the Postal Regulatory Commission, the new prices would take effect on July the 14th, 2024. All right, so that's just an update. Kind of maybe a story you're not going to hear everywhere else. Did you hear? I know everybody's been talking about the eclipse. Sheila Jackson Lee, she's a representative out of Texas, and she has a habit of making some weird quotes. She also, at one time, there was a really fascinating look behind the scenes and kind of the toxic work environment that she creates in her office. But she misinformed a group of high school students in Houston that the moon is a planet that is made up mostly of gases. Jackson Lee, who once led the House Science Committee's Space Subcommittee, keep that in mind, made several false statements that stunned a crowd of teenagers at Booker T. Washington High School during Monday's solar eclipse. She said, "You've heard the word full moon. Sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases. And that's why the question is, why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that?" She continued by saying the sun is mighty powerful heat, but it's almost impossible to go near the sun. The moon is more manageable. Jackson Lee continued making several statements that were questionable. In one statement, she told students the moon not only reflects the sun's light, but also emits unique light and energy. You have the energy of the moon at night. She also said, what you will see today will be the closest distance that the moon has ever been in the last 20 years, which means that that's why they will shut the light down, because they will be that close to Earth, which is an amazing experience. You'll be able to tell because there will be complete darkness. Sorry, that's even tough to read through. Okay, anyway, I saw that this morning. I said, well, that's an oddball way to bring up the solar eclipse, so I thought I'd pass it along to you. Now, we are going to get, I don't know if you saw this story about NPR. I think they said something like 87-0 is the amount of Democrats, Republicans that work at NPR. Now, you may not listen to NPR for that exact reason, but it's worth noting because your tax dollars are going towards NPR. And this comes up every once in a while, especially when Republicans take over the House and the Senate, about cutting back funding for public broadcasting. Now, of course, the knee-jerk on that is to go right to, well, they're cutting Big Bird, but that's not the case. But there's been I don't know if you want to call him a whistleblower, but Yuri Berliner wrote a devastating critique of NPR that we're going to get to in just a little bit. I do have some New York State issues as well. We're going to talk about Trump, quite a few things here about Biden, Israel, and as I said, we're going to have former Congressman Tom Reed in on the program a little bit later on. So, also the big, breaking story this morning is that Arizona Supreme Court has ruled a near total abortion ban from 1864 is enforceable, according to NBC News. The Arizona Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that a 160-year-old near total abortion ban, still on the books in the state, is enforceable, a bombshell decision that adds the state to the growing list of places where abortion care is effectively banned. Now, I asked the question because I know this is something that Biden and others are really running heavy on as we near Election Day. Does that play as much of a factor as they're suggesting? I don't have the answer for that. I know they point to some other elections where they believe that it did. So will that be a deciding factor? It could see quite an increase in voter turnout. But we may talk about that as well. But let's take our first break. Oh, no, I don't have to take our first break. Not yet. So let's talk about NPR. I forgot the time frame now that we're on for 2 hours. A little bit different. This is a good point from a viewer. The lady, meaning Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, talking about the moon sounded like she was reading from a fantasy children's book. It did sort of sound like that, didn't it? It was kind of difficult to read even. Okay. David Mastio from the New York Post says there's more than a little bravery in the world of journalism. The reporters who have died to bring us news from Israel and Gaza come to mind. But you see that kind of bravery every day. Someone showed a special kind of bravery Tuesday that you rarely, if ever, see. 25-year National Public Radio editor Yuri Berliner wrote a devastating critique of the newly woke broadcasters' descent into the fever swamps of identity politics. Berliner has put his career, everything he built for himself over decades, on the line to tell his colleagues they have lost their way. Already he's being called a racist, and all the other ists and phobes the progressive left deploys to destroy any journalist who has the audacity to speak up. And the only way that you get awards and such is if you're a Woodward and Bernstein bringing down a Republican. If it's the other way around, or you're exposing this bias at a taxpayer-funded institution, that is, needless to say, frowned upon. Berliner's case is ironclad. As best he could determine, there are exactly 0 Republicans working as journalists in the government-funded news organization's D.C. office. The words delivering the news on the publicly owned airwaves of NPR's member stations are chosen to please segregated activist groups more than for accuracy. There's been no self-reflection on how NPR was snookered by the self-serving experts on key news stories in recent years. Yes, they go through, obviously ignoring the Hunter Biden laptop. Well, anyway, you can imagine. For starters, the correct number of conservatives and Republicans working for a news organization that serves red states and blue states alike is greater than 0. Your words shouldn't be pre-digested by partisans. They should be your own. When you mess up, you should be accountable. The results are clear. As with much of the rest of the woke traditional press, trust from the public is cratering. Judging from NPR's editor-in-chief, Edith Chaplin's response, the message did not get through. She issued a memo defending NPR using the typical, I'm starting to hate this term, but word salad of the day and the word salad of those caught red-handed. As she addressed little of what the critique had to say, she said, we're proud to stand behind the exceptional work that our desks and shows do to cover a wide range of challenging stories. Not a word on why her staffers self-segregate by racial, sexual, and gender identity in their coverage. Not a word on why they don't hire conservatives for journalist jobs, and many conservatives won't even talk to them. That's no surprise. Berliner tried to raise his concerns internally. At lower levels, it got talked about, but nothing changed. When he tried to take them to the top, executives didn't have time for him. No, and I think most people, this just solidifies what so many people knew, the bias at NPR. But the fact that it does not bother them at all in NPR. It's almost, if you really want to think about it, a badge of honor. Maybe there's hope that if enough of those of us that are left in journalism who remember what journalism is supposed to be, they'll find the courage to right the ship. That was David Mastio, a former USA Today editor and columnist. The NPR, do you remember when Juan Williams got fired from NPR? Well, they asked him on, I believe it was Laura Ingram's show yesterday, about what he thought of this charge of NPR bias. By the way, according to the essay, that Yuri Berliner put in the Free Press? He said, according to voter registration records, he said 87-0 Democrat bent in its newsroom. Berliner alleged that there is an absence of viewpoint diversity and avoidance of terms such as biological sex in the NPR newsroom. Williams suggested he was not surprised. He said that an open-minded spirit no longer exists with NPR. That is devastating both for its journalism and its business model. Well, the business model is kind of unique because it is funded by donations and by taxpayers' dollars. So it's not like a typical media outlet that is trying to make their money on advertisement or by offering the best kind of programming. They are doing so almost with that built-in protection. But Juan Williams said, I don't think I'm any wild-eyed conservative, but they thought I was too conservative a black guy for this kind of company. Not only did they fire me, they called me a psycho. I mean, they said horrible things about me quite publicly. So no, it doesn't surprise me that Berliner had to say. So they are very much an insulated cadre of people who think they're right and have a hard time with people who are different. Yes, well, I mean, that's very similar to what we're seeing on college campuses, right? You can't have a different opinion or you'll get shouted down. Now this is in the newsroom. They have turned on that editor because he has spoken out about the factual numbers of what the bias actually looks like behind the scenes. So I just want to tell you a little bit about that. I know we probably don't have a ton of NPR listeners in the audience, but I thought it was worth mentioning, when they always talk about the conservative media bubble. I always wonder quite what that is, but when they always talk about that, it's interesting to me when we can just name so many institutions that have been radicalized in this way. NPR, one that we knew, but now, again, just solidified the numbers as the whistleblower spoke out. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-977-4997. That's 1-800-977-4997, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
Fox Wednesday, 2 worlds collide with The Masked Singer and Transformers.
We are ready.
The robots in disguise meet a wild card surprise.
I think this is Terry Crews,
Michael Irvin, Deion Sanders.
No one is safe with a double elimination.
Who's it gonna be?
Tonight, and we are back with Frankly Speaking, our beautiful view of Market Street here in Corning as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Did you hear about the new Scrabble game? This is getting some attention. I know. You're saying, how is this breaking news, Frank? Just something I think that paints a larger picture, much like we were talking about with NPR. A new version of Scramble is set to be released for the first time in 75 years, and the updated rendition of the iconic board game is reportedly aimed at a Generation Z, a Gen Z audience. The updated version, to be released in Europe, will include two sides. One side with the original game for players who want to stick to the traditional version, the way we've always played. And the second, less competitive version to appeal to Gen Z players. The second side, called Scrabble Together, will include helper cards using a simpler scoring system that will be quicker to play and allow people to play in teams. So this is what is being reported. Mattel, the maker of the game, had done some research and found that younger Gen Z people don't like the competitive nature of the game as much as older generations in response. He said the newer version would be easier and more inclusive. The makers of Scrabble found that younger people, Gen Z people, don't quite like the competitive nature of Scrabble. They want a game where you can simply enjoy language, words, being together, and having fun creating words. It's kind of a wild story. All right, let's get to New York. I don't know. You can weigh in on any of these issues. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to weigh in at any time. So we know that the budget deadline in New York has been pushed. It looks like it will most likely be pushed back again tomorrow. Well, the state comptroller's office is reassuring state workers that their paycheck will be delivered on time this week amid a holdup on the state budget, allaying some fears from some who on Monday said their direct deposits had been delayed. Payday for state workers is technically Wednesday, though banks can post direct deposits at different times before then, said Jennifer Freeman, Director of Communications for the Comptroller's Office. Last week's budget extender meant the agency had sent payroll files on time, and as usual, and all workers should expect to see their normal paychecks by midweek. Just one of the consequences of the delay in the budget. And as I mentioned, I know we talked to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano last week. He is going to join us when the budget goes through. We don't know when that's going to be. We may have fallen into that lull where it's easier to continue to keep pushing off the deadline and pushing off the deadline and pushing off the deadline. But Albany Watch, and specifically Chris McKenna, said here are the things to watch as the debate continues on the New York budget grind. School aid cuts appear to be off the table. Hochul has proposed school aid changes that included ending a practice that has prevented any district from getting less funding than it got the previous year. Eliminating the hold harmless provision would have resulted in cuts for half of all districts, which set off a firestorm of opposition. Lawmakers facing re-election this year firmly rejected the idea and even countered it with 3% minimum aid increases in their own budget, but they also supported reviewing and revising a funding formula that hasn't changed since 2007. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this. I just want you to be up to date on what we'll be looking at when it comes to the fight over the New York State budget. So Hochul wanted to cut school aid in her budget. New York lawmakers are pushing to restore it. Next, will New York Will New York cap rent increases? We can skip that one. That's more of a city issue. Up to 5 prisons may close. And I know this has been a really big sticking point for the Assemblyman and so many others, Assemblyman Palmisano and Chris Friend and others, because the 90-day notice is so unfair to the corrections officers at a time when we are out of corrections officers, essentially. I mean, it seems like everywhere is looking for corrections officers. New York has already closed more than 24 prisons since 2009. As many as 5 could be shuttered under the budget now being finalized, reducing the total to 39. Part of the debate over Hochul's proposal has been how much time hundreds of corrections officers and other employees working in each site would be given to prepare for transfers to other prisons or the loss of their jobs. What a weird kind of sticking point on that. Hochul's proposed giving 90 days notice. The state wants to double that time frame to 100 days. Now, the Assembly opposed the closures altogether. Hochul's plan didn't identify which facilities the state would shut. The Hudson Valley has one of the state's highest concentrations of prisons, with a dozen dotted across the region, including 4 in Ulster County and 3 in Westchester. Past waves of closures included at facilities in Orange and Dutchess counties. All right, we also have, of course, in this debate, we're going to be talking about shoplifting. Did you see, who was it? Was it the police commissioner? We'll get to it a little bit later on. But saying, again, crime is just a perception because you're reading the paper. It's not accurate. They keep telling us that, and it's very, very frustrating. But anyway, Hochul included in her budget a set of steps to combat retail theft and the organized crime rings responsible for much of it. Some ideas were uncontroversial, such as forming a special state police unit to investigate and root out those things, and offering store tax credits to help pay for security expenses. But one piece to watch in the final budget is Hochul's plan to impose more severe sentences for shoplifters convicted of assaulting store workers. Both the Senate and Assembly opposed the idea, and Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie has questioned whether it would be effective in deterring store theft. Yes, Hastie's, and we talked about it all last week, his idea is stiffer penalties are not... don't help the matter, that it's not a deterrent when it comes to people committing crime. Now, of course, we've had numerous people on, myself included, that disagree with that mindset, but it's a very Albany-type mindset. Continuing, a tax break to spur New York City housing, and that does it. Those are the 5 major issues to look for here as the debate over the budget continues. Here it is, the police commissioner. How am I doing? Ooh, I'm late. Facing a wave of random street and subway violence, a deepening migrant crisis, and the fatal shooting last month of an officer during a routine traffic stop, New York City Police Commissioner Edward Caban insists everything's fine. Quote, it's the perception versus reality. You know, we could tell people all the time that I'm going to show more numbers. Yes, we are heading in the right direction for crime. But to someone's reality, someone who has been a victim of a crime, it tells a different story. And that's one of the things we're struggling with now. All right, there you go. So it's a perception versus reality. It's quotes like that, isn't it? All right, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Stay with us.
It's time to stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Haslett 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Tired of a pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before. Hammered pans are ultra non-stick and they're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie or this whole chicken dinner. Use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips right out. Plus the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-608-1538 or go to buyhammered.com.
The team competition is over.
Fox Thursday.
One Japanese bento box.
It's every chef.
How'd you do a sushi roll with no rice?
I don't know.
For themselves.
One more thing.
3 people going into elimination. This is insane.
An all-new Next Level chef. Then on an all-new Farmer Wants a Wife. Some say goodbye.
I'm gonna miss you.
And some say hi to family.
How soon do you feel like you guys are ready to have kids?
Oh my God.
Can I tell you who my favorite is?
Who?
Tomorrow.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and you're watching WYDC TV. Big Fox. One bipartisan issue here, as we talk about New York State. A bipartisan group is calling on Hochul to release $3 million, which has been withheld from New York State veterans. A bipartisan group of lawmakers on Tuesday demanded Governor Kathy Hochul release millions of dollars donated to New York veterans that continues to languish in state coffers. Lawmakers are furious. The state continues to withhold more than $3 million in tax checkoff donations for services that benefit veterans from years ago, revealed in a January audit by State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli's office that showed the state had not distributed more than $13 million in personal income tax checkoffs. The state has withheld $1.5 million for the Veterans Remembrance and Cemetery Maintenance and Operation Fund, $1.3 million for the Homeless Veterans Assistance Fund, roughly $360,000 for the Veterans Home Assistance Fund, and about $230,000 for the Military Family Relief Fund. Jessica Scarala-Spanton, a state senator who chairs the Senate Veterans, Homeland Security, and Military Affairs Committee, said $3.5 billion might not sound like a lot in the context of this budget, but it's a lot to organizations that provide this support. The funds donated to the state's charitable giving program through the tax return process have not been distributed for at least 6 years, according to the comptroller. State law mandates funds be distributed the same year they're donated. Wow. Senator Jake Ashby said, "We're talking about military families that are struggling financially, military families who have soldiers, Marines, airmen who have been wounded or killed in action. That's where these funds go, and they haven't been dispersed." All right, just an update on that as well. Oh, by the way, you know how we've talked about... Wow, I better slow down. I'm going through all my stories already. Remember how we talked about the campaign matching, campaign fund matching in New York State? And it was a hot button issue, and it still is. I mean, I think when taxpayers realize what their money is going to in this scenario, which could be to fund a campaign of someone you seriously dislike or do not support. Well, the New York State Public Campaign Finance Board has certified 329 candidates this election cycle for the state's new matching funds program. It went into effect November 9, 2022, but the upcoming elections will be the first in which candidates can put the money to use. State Board of Elections Director of Public Information Kathleen McGrath said that they had to register a committee, apply, and be certified by February 26th in order to qualify this year. Candidates are not required to claim the money, but can receive up to a 12-to-1 match for the first $5 to $50 they receive from individuals in their district. The ratio decreases on a tiered scale for individuals contributing up to $250. So again, that goes back to, with all the budget issues that we're having, that we're talking about with the New York State budget, all the things that are lacking, and we talk about priorities, right? We talked about priorities with the Assemblyman. Why is campaign finance a priority in this way? To give tax dollars to candidates that you may not support, or maybe you do support. That's not the issue. If you want to donate to a candidate, donate to a candidate. Why should your tax dollars be used in this way? Now, I understand why, when it boils down to it, both sides will have to use it, because now it's the way to play the game. That's unfortunate, but you can't. It's very tough to take that stance and say, I'm not going to take the match if your opponent does. Yeah, this is going to be... I was always surprised there wasn't more pushback on that, if I'm being honest. But I think it was one of those things that helps incumbents. Because think about an incumbent who's already got kind of that network of support and what that does for that. So it always seems to benefit the incumbents. We have a couple other New York State issues and some local issues I want to get to. Where do I want to go from here? Just looking at my time. Sorry, we're doing this a little bit live on there. Oh, we got this comment. I forgot to read it. Comment from a viewer. What's next? A Gen Z Scrabble app that plays automatically with another cell phone in the background and you don't even have to look at it? Welcome to the new age order. Yeah, maybe. Non-competitive. You just, at the end of the day, you say, oh, wow, I won or lost maybe. Do you remember, and I brought this to you as a public service. Oh, here we go. Another comment. Scrabble is supposed to be a fun way to build and exercise your vocabulary, not dumb it down. Another very good point. If you're just joining us, you wonder why we're talking about Scrabble. They have changed, and right now I think it's maybe just in Britain for the time being, or in England, I should say. But what it what it does is one side is the normal Scrabble game you've grown to know and love, the traditional game. The other side is a more inclusive, easier, not as competitive game for the Gen Z market, the younger market. Okay, so a while ago, I brought you the public service announcement, and I actually had a lot of people come up to me and say, hey, thanks for making us aware of this. And that was, if you didn't get your eye test during COVID, you could write to the DMV and say, basically check a box and say, yes, I'll get my eyes tested when things clear up. Well, this is myself included, we forgot. I think we had a year to do it. And then some people, I think, were getting letters. I never got a letter. But they start putting out kind of warnings in the media that your license would be suspended. Well, many New Yorkers are now unable to legally drive thanks to their failure to take and pass a required test. Nearly 36,000 New Yorkers have had their driver's license suspended for failing to take the required eye exam in time. As of September of last year, 95,000 people in the state were in danger of losing their licenses unless they hurried up and submitted proof for the DMV that they had passed a vision test. Why? Well, in the early days of the pandemic, the DMV loosened up its licensing renewal process. It allowed customers whose licenses expired between March 1st of 2020 and October 31st of 2021 to postpone the vision test requirement, renewing their licenses online and self-certifying their vision in the meantime. After a while, however, the rules began to tighten and the DMV once again began asking for proof of passing a vision test. Those who wanted to keep their licenses were warned multiple times that they needed to do so before December, and many did. Were you warned? I'm going to ask you that question. I was not. That could have been just a fluke. I know I got mine kind of last minute, but I was only made aware because so much of the coverage out there on it. It's the 35,833 who didn't. They're now facing conviction of driving on a suspended license if they continue to drive. You must have 20/40 vision or better in at least one eye without glasses or contacts in order to drive without wearing them. So, good luck. If you forgot about this, kind of dropped the ball on it, wow, 36,000 New Yorkers. Here's another comment from a viewer. I didn't know this was going to be the hot button issue of the day. So if they want to dumb down Scrabble, what happened to the game Scrabble for Juniors? There you go. You can, I don't know, maybe it's still out there on the market. All right, we've got a couple local issues when we come back. I do want to talk about Israel. There's a lot here on Israel. Quite a few things here about the presidential campaigns of both Biden and Trump. There's starting to get some some criticism to Joe Biden for kind of these star-studded fundraisers. Because he's Scranton Joe, and we've heard about that so often. This was more buddying with celebrities and big money donors, and it's costing him some support when it comes to kind of the common man and women out there trying to, I don't know, hopefully find a president that can relate to their struggles. But it's tough because in this administration, when they're pushing Bidenomics and they're telling you how good everything is, it's still very difficult when you go to the grocery store and you realize that may not be the case. But we could talk about that as well. I don't want to run too late. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. And In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Getting real video for a commercial used to be extremely expensive, but not anymore. WYDC TV Big Fox now offers the Twin Tiers amazing aerial video for your business. We do it with our state-of-the-art drone and commercially licensed aerial pilot. Beautiful HD aerial video and pictures custom-made for your commercial. Call or email now to advertise on Big Fox TV and let everyone see your business in a whole new way.
Fox Wednesday, two worlds collide with The Masked Singer and Transformers.
We are ready.
The robots in disguise meet a wild card surprise.
I think this is Terry Crews.
Michael Irvin. Deion Sanders.
No one is safe with a double elimination.
Who's it gonna be?
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. Thank you so much for joining us as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street. I'm your host, Frank Acom. A couple of nice stories here locally that the first one I meant to mention a few days ago, and I apologize, kind of got lost in the paperwork. But the Steuben County Courthouse in Bath will be bathed in red through April 14th. In recognition of the 15th annual Recruit New York campaign sponsored by the Firefighters Association of the State of New York. This is a great campaign, Recruit New York. It gives you an opportunity, if you're interested in volunteering, to kind of meet with your local volunteer fire departments and talk to them about, kind of the responsibilities. The Fire Up New York Red looks to illuminate both the crucial work of local firefighters and the pressing need for additional volunteers. Now, Steuben County Public Safety Director Tim Marshall said, "We want our Fire Up to stay in red this April for firefighter recruitment. We would like everyone in the community to join us and turn their lights red in support of this initiative." And again, it's on April 14th. Bolstering the ranks of volunteer fire service is critical to providing the essential levels of protection for residents. However, recruitment and retention of volunteers has become more difficult in recent years due to the turbulent economy, busy lives and schedules, and other lifestyle factors. If you have ever had the urge to give back to your community, now is the time. The volunteer fire service needs you. And Recruit New York and Assemblyman Palmisano sent a nice document out that gave information on that, and that is coming up right around the corner. Recruit New York is on the 13th and the 14th of April. And you can find out more by contacting your local fire departments if you would like to become a volunteer. Another local event, this one coming out of Chemung County. I think this is a great idea. We talk about colleges and kind of the bias and just propaganda in many instances that young people are being taught. We talk about the expenses and is it worth it at some point to get that degree? And now with Biden looking to again erase some debt. And one of the reasons was, and I'm not going to have their official term that they used, but the idea was if you got a degree that didn't get you a good job, which happens a lot, that would be a part of it as well. But look at this. Students look closer at expanding opportunities in skilled trades through an invite-only event called Try Trades on April 18th at the Town of Big Flats Municipal Campus. Local area high school students will participate in demonstrations in advanced manufacturing, construction, and skilled trades with hands-on interactive exhibits from area businesses. This event will provide the students with a clear understanding that there are alternative pathways to successful careers, such as on-the-job training and apprenticeships, I have trouble with that word, and the opportunity to introduce students to short-term educational opportunities provided by GST BOCES and Corning Community College. This is Nick Ahern, Steering Committee Chair and Membership Development Manager for IBEW 139. The Try Trades event is a day for students to explore career opportunities in the building and construction trade industry. Students will have the opportunity to operate heavy equipment, bend conduit, use a virtual welder, and so much more, all under the supervision of trade professionals. So what a good idea. I just wanted to pass that along to you at a time when we very often talk about maybe other opportunities that you could look into before committing that kind of money and time to college, as well as what we're seeing on a regular basis being taught on these college campuses. All right, a couple questions for you if you want to weigh in on them. I see that Marjorie Taylor Greene is outspoken again about wanting to oust Mike Johnson. Do you think that's a good idea? I know we are getting dangerously close to having a Democrat be the speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. I don't see the upside for this. Now, as far as I know, she hasn't went fully through with this, but I think she's getting more and more support. I'm not sure why. I mean, I understand why she feels that way. I don't think Mike Johnson has done a horrible job. I think it's as so many articles have written, what Republican would want it at this point. But that's the question I pose for you. Are you happy with Mike Johnson? Would you like to see him ousted? Do you fear that if that happens, Hakeem Jeffries will be taking over? I'll ask that too. And do you think, and I mentioned this earlier as well, the Arizona abortion decision, what are your thoughts? I know that the media is already running with the idea that this is going to be a very, very big factor in November, and I know a lot of Democrats are banking on that as well. Do you believe that it will be? Do you think that this has the voting drive, driving out turnout, or is it the media focused on it? I don't know. There is a piece of CNN, of all places, CNN, suggesting that the way Trump handled this wasn't bad, going back to states' rights, but maybe we'll talk about that as well. We do have a little bit later on, former Congressman Tom Reed will be our guest. I do want to get to some Israel issues if we can. I may start with that when we come back. Tom will probably be with us for about 15-20 minutes, so not a ton of time, but we'll talk to him for a while about as many issues of the day as we can. So if you have any questions for the former Congressman, it's not too late to get them in. You see the number on the bottom of your screen, 607-358-3131. And I've got a few things. Well, he's been so outspoken about the real threat about China. And I think it'd be a really appropriate time, as Iran's threatening Israel, to ask Tom about that. We'll bring up some other just Washington, day-to-day Washington questions for him as well. But if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. We've got to take another short break. We'll be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning. Hey, did you know that Coons has been in business since 1955? Wow, that's going on 70 years. And did you know that Coons is still family owned and operated? Really? That's 3 generations. Way to go, Steve. Did you also know that their salespeople are non-commissioned and they offer delivery and financing? That's awesome. So why do they want you to shop and compare then? Because they are confident that you won't find a better deal.
Guaranteed.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning.
Shop and compare.
Friends have been friends about Colonial Penn guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance for more than 50 years. And with good reason. If you're between the age of 50 and 85, it's a sure thing. Your acceptance is guaranteed because full benefits are not paid in the first 2 years. And the price? Options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. With Colonial Penn, your rate is another sure thing. It will never increase. And you should know this coverage can last a lifetime.
Call today, 1-800-475-1050.
Yeah, there seems to be a commercial coming up short, and so I apologize for that dead air for just a few seconds. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. So glad that you joined us this morning. And as I mentioned, Congressman Tom Reed will be on here in just a little bit, but Iran is saying that Israel must be punished for Syria embassy attack. This is what I was highlighting to. The Ayatollah Khamenei said on Wednesday that Israel must be punished, and it shall be, for attacking the Iranian embassy compound in Syria. In a major escalation of Israel's war with regional adversaries, suspected Israeli warplanes bombed Iran's consulate in the Syrian capital on April 1st in a strike that Iran said killed 7 military advisors. When they attacked the consulate, it is as if they attacked our soil, Khamenei said. The evil regime made a mistake and must be punished, and it shall be. So that is the statement there. And as we've mentioned, with the connection to Russia and China, very, very troubling times. I would pose those questions to you. What do you think? But I don't see a way to not see the troubling nature in all of this. Biden has suggested Israel should just call for a ceasefire. President Biden appeared to suggest in a recent interview that Israel should just call for a ceasefire in Gaza that would last well over a month and not be contingent on hostages being released by Hamas. Quote, what I'm calling for is for the Israelis to just call for a ceasefire, allow for the next 6-8 weeks total access to all food and medicine going into the country. I've spoken with everyone from the Saudis to the Jordanians to the Egyptians. They're prepared to move in. They're prepared to move the food in. I think there's no excuse to not provide for the medical and the food needs of those people. It should be done now. Absent from the president's call for a ceasefire were any demands for concessions from the terror group responsible for last October's deadly attack on the Jewish state. It is very troubling because the point that so many people have made, and not just me, so many people have made this point that there was a ceasefire on October 6th when Hamas broke that ceasefire. So why Hamas is never brought up in any of this, putting all the onus on Israel. But a lot of people have been pushing back on the president's stance on Israel, meaning those in his own party. So he's had to become a little more, for lack of a better term, wishy-washy. Yeah, and we know that they had their call, but meaning Biden with Netanyahu, but Netanyahu's still saying they're going through with Rafah and that he was going to fight Hamas until he eliminated Hamas. No force in the world is going to stop us. There are many forces trying to do this, but it will not help because this enemy, after what it has done, will not do this again. Neither will it exist, said Netanyahu. We are committed to doing this, and each of you now at this base will contribute in one way or another to completing that goal. Biden criticized the prime minister in his Univision sit-down, arguing that Netanyahu is making a mistake in the way he's handled the war. I think he's doing what it is a mistake. I don't agree with his approach. Oof. So I guess we're seeing a rift in that friendship, and I'm not sure President Biden's the best to talk about war strategy. If you look at, for instance, the withdrawal from Afghanistan. So that's troubling as well. So let's see. How am I doing on time? Good. Do I want to get into this or I want to take my break and have a little more time? I'm going to take our last break for this hour. Then we'll have a little more time to dive into this piece by David Harasani from the New York Post. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Is it time for your next oil change? Are you too busy to do it yourself? Let the professionals at Quick Lube do it for you. With 2 locations better to serve you, Quick Lube makes it easy. Get your oil and filter changed and never leave the comfort of your vehicle. No appointment is needed. Just drive up and let Quick Lube do the rest. Keep your motor humming with Quick Lube on South Main Street in Elmira and Chemung Street in Horsehead.
Make your first move with battery power made by Steel. Right now, save $50 on select battery lawnmower sets and $50 on the FSA 57 battery trimmer set. Real Steel. Find yours.
Shell Missy Face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
book smarts versus street smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. So David Harasani says Joe Biden courts hate against America with his agenda on the Israel-Hamas war. It was, I don't know how to pronounce this, and I think I'm pronouncing wrong. It was Al-Quds Day last Friday. And I'm not going to give you the whole history of that, the background that. You can find this piece for yourself at the New York Post this morning. But to celebrate the occasion, listen to this. Protesters in Dearborn, Michigan chanted death to America and death to Israel, while a speaker named Tarek Bazi declared the United States a place that's afforded him the liberty to openly support murderers, terrorists, etc., one of the rottenest countries on the planet. That's a speech that he was giving in Dearborn, Michigan. It's the entire system that has to go, he explained to Cheers, which I assume were American citizens, said David Harasani. As commentator Seth Mandel noted on Twitter, there's Charlottesville every other day in America, and barely anyone on the left cares. Most progressives, let's face it, either tactically or openly support these days of rage. Biden, it should be noted, is a political zombie who has never met a position he hasn't dropped for a vote. So you've got to keep that in mind, and that's why I was fearful from the beginning that his strong stance in support of Israel wouldn't last, because it really does all at the end of the day come down to the votes. And when we started seeing these protests, when we started seeing his own party putting together kind of an anti-primary vote, I said this is when Israel's gonna receive the punishment, essentially. Today, Biden is surrounded by Obama-era advisors and Hamas sympathizers who have long wanted the U.S. to be aligned with mullahs of Iran as a counterbalance to colonialist Western capitalists of Israel. And now that Democrats like Chuck Schumer have sold out the Jews to the vultures for a few votes in Dearborn, nothing holds back progressive Democrats from normalizing the anti-Semitism that already infects the hard left. This is not everyone's fight, I realize. But remember, the same people who chant death to Israel inevitably wish death to America as well. There's a lot more to that. He gives a history of Al-Quds Day, and I think it's well worth the time. He also says, real quickly, but if parents who are sick of school boards undermining their children's education and futures that are smeared as a domestic terrorist by this administration, surely these chanting death to America deserve a look. Granted, it would be weird. The same people, the Jew haters who attended Quds Day rallies or write for the Washington Post, are the people Joe Biden is now cynically trying to mollify in his effort to win the 2024 presidential race and save, quote unquote, save democracy. All right. That is it for today, for today's edition. Hold on. For this hour of Frankly Speaking. Coming up in the next hour, we will be talking with former Congressman Tom Reed. He's going to be joining us a little bit here, right around 7:15, probably after that first break, 7:10, 7:15. We'll be talking with him. If there are any questions you have for the former Congressman, please let me know. I'll try to get to as many of them as we possibly can. We do have coming up a lot about illegal immigration. I mentioned this earlier, but Scranton Joe alienating blue-collar Democrats with ritzy celeb campaign gigs. We also have few things here about Trump. I like this. Here's another question for you. Trump's campaign is relying on Melania as a secret weapon to win undecided voters. Oh, that's interesting. Do you agree with that? I also think that's why so many people have said the VP pick will be one of the bigger ones in history for Trump to kind of bring back in the fold some of the people that may not like his tweeting style or his truth style, I guess. Isn't that what his social media is called, Truth? So trying to win some of those people back in. So we'll talk about that and much more. But as always, we are 2 hours now. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms, please reach out to me at that number on the bottom of your screen, 607-358-3131. We've been getting some good comments in. I appreciate that. Here's a viewer comment. America's done pretty good for itself. Otherwise, millions wouldn't want to come here if it was that bad. These political zombies saying death to America are like internet predators trying to get the most clicks by saying outrageous things to get attention. It is just wild, though, isn't it, that it's in Dearborn, Michigan? You know, you expect this on like foreign soil, something like that. But imagine being up there and talking about how bad our system is when you've been afforded that right to do so in the country that you are espousing hate to. It's just, it's a weird optic, for lack of a better term. So I'm getting on all these tangents. How am I doing on time? I do have a minute here. Do I have anything that I need to bring up? No, I think we've covered everything for this hour. We may talk just quickly about Rob Schneider, the comedian. He endorsed yesterday. I kind of thought he might be a Trump person, but he endorsed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And if we get a chance, I will mention what he had to say about it, because it was kind of interesting. As I said, is Melania the secret weapon when it comes to Trump's campaign? That's what they are suggesting. So there's that. We're going to talk with the congressman. I know I'm just running a little late here. Not late. I don't want to start a whole nother story when we still have a minute to go. I will say there's a, I don't know, fascinating, I guess, piece or not. Betsy McKay from the New York Post says, as bird flu spreads, the Biden administration remains dangerously unprepared for another pandemic. It says the H5N1 virus, which for 30 years affected mostly birds, is rapidly evolving and spreading globally. The Biden administration is dangerously unready. Over the last 2 years, H5N1 has jumped from birds to mammals, sickening some 30 species. South American scientists published in the prestigious journal Nature report massive sea lions dying off and warns about mutations of concern potentially evolving into the next global pandemic. Are we getting used to that kind of coverage? All right, now we're doing just fine. Again, get your questions in, your last minute questions in. I will start the program off with some news, and then we will go to the congressman, former congressman, Tom Reed, a little bit later. He's on Zoom, so I just have to see when he's all logged in so I can take that break, and then we'll talk with him. And I think that covers everything. We got some guests coming up the rest of the week as well, so you'll just have to stay tuned to find out all about those guests and how much fun we're going to have on the 2-hour edition of Frankly Speaking, right here on WYDC TV Big Fox. What do you think about 2 hours? I think we're doing fine covering and filling the time. This was just a weird last break because I didn't want to start a whole brand new story. But I think it's been going pretty well. So I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoy being a part of it. Because it seemed like when we had 1 hour, we did not have enough time to cover nearly everything we wanted to cover. Now we have the perfect amount of time. And that's why you have to stay tuned for the next hour of Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Sorry, guys, took me for... What is this?
Well, you know how our T-Mobile home internet can slow down?
Uh-huh.
Turns out, walls can get in the way. So, I fixed it.
So instead of getting a Spectrum internet, which is fast and reliable 24/7, you got us internet that can be blocked by walls.
Yes, but I think I fixed it.
By smashing a hole through our wall.
Well, technically, walls. Yeah, I might not want to go in the dining room.
Don't settle for T-Mobile cell phone internet.
Kid's a natural.
This is why I don't leave the house.
Get faster, more reliable internet speeds with Spectrum.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Hour 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Oh, we're getting some waves in. Some people still on the 7 o'clock wave schedule. I like it. I like it a lot. We're going to hear from and speak to former Congressman Joe Sempolinski. Oh, jeez, that was last week. Tom Reed coming up in just a little bit. Sorry, I got distracted. Let me see, how am I doing? This is what I mentioned, and I don't know how long we'll talk with Tom, so I don't want to run out of time on today's show and not talk about this. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton recently hosted a Broadway fundraiser for President Biden, in the latest example of Democrats holding star-studded events with large donors, while former President Trump leads in small donor fundraising and frequents less lavish events. It's a contrast that may prove jarring to average voters already souring on Biden. And I think there was a part of that, too, when he went to the wake. Former President Trump went to the wake of the fallen police officer while Joe was preparing for the $25 million star-studded fundraiser. I do think the optics are bad on this, but they're worried about obviously getting the money. But it was very reminiscent of Hillary Clinton needing to have the celebrities, needing to have the music and the entertainment to bring people in. The event came days after Biden hauled in over $26 million at a fundraiser gala with former President Obama and Clinton. That's what I was referencing there. It's tone deaf, said a GOP fundraiser and strategist Noel Nikpour, this coming from Fox News. It's like when Obama told you better conserve money while he was spending our nation's money right and left. So it's like he's trying to convince, and all the celebrities are trying to convince and really appeal to the base, saying that we've got to stamp out Donald Trump. If you've noticed, the reason the argument is that we've got to stamp out Donald Trump, we can't have him again, we're going to focus on gender issues or abortion. They don't really hard press the economy that much because they realize it's not reality. With interest rates the way they're sitting, rent, mortgages, groceries, restaurant costs, going out and having a drink, everything is high. So if you notice, they don't really press our economy versus his economy. They're really going back to their old playbook, which is social issues. Yeah, and many Democrat strategists were really upset with Biden's team for a while because they kept trying to push the Bidenomics idea. And then they go through, and this is a pretty good piece from Fox. Colin Reed, a communications strategist and co-founder of South and Hill Strategies, said from electric vehicle mandates to college loan bailouts, Joe Biden has strayed a long way from his Scranton roots. Continuing to rub shoulders with high-rolling celebrities only calls more attention to the political realignment that is making the Democrat Party a tough sell for working-class voters. I'm not going to go through where the Biden campaign had to say. But Fox News contributor Liz Peek echoed these sentiments, saying the DNC won't say who actually showed up to help raise more than $26 million. Why so coy? Because Democrats pretend the former president, Donald Trump, is a candidate kowtowing to the moneyed class. They don't want the public to know that Biden's crowd is way more Wall Street than Main Street. Peek also said, why are lower-income Americans gravitating towards Trump? It's not because they think he's more likable. In fact, the same poll shows they don't. It's because they think his policies work better for them. Guess what? They're correct. All right, well, we got waves coming in. Thank you, everybody. Yes, former Congressman Tom Reed is going to be in just a moment. Just checking to make sure he's not on Zoom right now as we speak. Nope. Let's see. So how do you deal with those optics? You need the money. You need the support of these Hollywood celebrities who, towards the end, they'll start putting out PSAs and or ad campaigns with these type of celebrities having other fundraisers as well. But the optics of it, it looks so bad. Hillary Clinton, if you recall the time, calling so many Trump supporters are all, I guess, deplorables. And then having these star-studded affairs with celebrities and performers. And again, I think the optics plays hard on the average voter, the person who keeps being told that, no, the economy is doing really good. No, everything's fine. And then you go to the grocery store and you can't afford to put food on the table. And you add on top of that, and I know we mentioned it a lot, but you add on top of that the $25 million fundraiser with Biden while Trump was at the wake of the fallen police officer in New York City. So in my opinion, that's not the best optics we've ever seen, but also the direction the campaign seems to be headed. We're going to take our first break. I want to play a little catch up so we're not too late with the former congressman when he signs on. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, get your last minute questions in.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never going to believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
This is an important message for firefighters, members of the military, and airport workers. For decades, first responders and firefighters at military bases and airports used a chemical-based foam to fight fires. Studies have shown that chemicals used to make aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, are highly toxic to humans and have been associated with several types of cancer. If you or someone you know was diagnosed with any of those cancers, call now for a free case review.
You and tear your old statements and bills, but thieves use this information to steal your identity. Don't be a victim. Get the ID Police, the new ink roller that encrypts all your old documents. So before you throw it out, just roll it on, and your information is gone, both on the front and through the back. Even if the paper is held up to the light, even your medical information is safe with the ID Police. So block it out before you throw it out. Order now and get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 and get free shipping too. This offer is not available on Amazon, so call or click now to get your ID Police for as low as $9.99 with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-898-1002. That's 1-800-898-1002 or visit getidpolice.com. So call 1-800-898-1002. Order now.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on.
We are back, and Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're just waiting the arrival of former Congressman Tom Reed. I've been reading up a little bit about, and this is from the New York Post, about how specifically the New York City laws help, or why it's so hard for ICE to deport migrants accused of a crime. It's really fascinating. If you have a chance, check that out at the New York Post. We also have, so I asked a question earlier, with this Arizona abortion law, we know that this is what they're campaigning on, meaning the Biden campaign, on kind of social issues. This is another example of the media kowtowing to the Biden administration. USA Today changed a headline about Donald Trump's abortion stance after the Biden-Harris campaign called it erroneously false. On Monday, Biden-Harris campaign manager Julie Chavez Rodriguez, Deputy Communications Director Brock Gorin, and pro-abortion advocate Caitlin Cash held a press call to discuss media coverage of Trump announcing his position on whether abortion should be banned. Trump explicitly affirmed his support for in vitro fertilization, and he emphasized his support for states determining their own laws for abortion, so long as there are exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. Quote, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land. In this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many states will have a different number of weeks. At the end of the day, it's all about the will of the people. On the press call, members of the Biden-Harris campaign team slammed coverage of Trump's announcement. One particularly erroneous false headline even said Trump, quote, opposes a national abortion ban and will leave it up to the will of the people. USA Today covered the news with a headline that said the will of the people, Trump opposes national abortion ban, says states should decide. Mediaite, which captured an image of the original headline, reported that around 2 hours after the conference call, the old headline was deleted and replaced with a new version. In the we know that this administration is very heavy-handed when it comes to the media. It has no problem essentially complaining to the media that gives him so much good coverage that they're not doing enough. So this isn't really surprising. It's not a surprise that USA Today would change their headline either. The new headline said, Donald Trump says states should decide abortion policy, avoids talk of a national ban, but failed to include any sort of editor's note explaining the change. USA Today's website notes the story was updated roughly 7 hours after it was initially published, but does not explain why. The updated story still noted, Trump wrote, at the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people when offering his thoughts on abortion restrictions. Now, USA Today did say in a statement that the headline updates are not uncommon for breaking news. Our mission is to report the facts as accurately as possible. So why do they change it 7-8 hours after the fact? Isn't that the question? 7 or 8 hours after the fact, after the White House complained about this erroneous headline. So, all right, we're just jumping around this morning. Be a part of it. Anything you'd like to talk about, let me know, because we're going to have former Congressman Tom Reed in just a moment. So the media now is writing up the stories because of the Arizona, what they're saying, bombshell, of what this means for the Trump campaign. One day after former President Trump declared that abortion should be left to the states, the Arizona Supreme Court revived an 1864 law that effectively bans all abortions, with exceptions only to save the mother's life. Now, the swing state ruling delivered a massive political gift to Democrats, according to Axios, who could not have asked for a better timing to highlight the consequences of Trump's abortion position. This ruling is a result of the extreme agenda of Republicans, elected officials who are committed to ripping away women's freedoms, President Biden said in a statement. This is what leaving it to states looks like, tweeted Biden campaign spokesperson Amar Moussa. Now, the other side, President Trump could not have been more clear. There are decisions for people of each state to make. So, boy, the media, as we know, is going to run with this. We know that they're going to make this a major issue. They have already, because as you see with the USA Today headline, they are more than willing to even change headlines for the president. So you're going to hear a lot about threat to democracy. You're going to hear a lot about abortion. These are what the president is running on, but that goes back to the point where we're saying where he has his lavish fundraisers. He can't talk about the economy because the economy is not good, no matter what they would try to tell you. Perception. Perspective, not perception, whatever. So they don't know which direction to go other than the social issues. Will that have as much play? That's the question. But we have to take a break because the former congressman, Tom Reed, will be joining us in just a second. Stay with us.
We are proud to serve our country, to serve our local communities, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier, to serve abroad when and where duty calls. We are ready to stand with our brothers and sisters to defend, to serve, to fight. We're always ready, we're always there. We are the New York Army National Guard.
Tending the you love is a lot easier when you share the heavy lifting. Team up with Polaris Ranger, your hardworking partner for backyards, the backwoods, farms, and ranches.
Ithaca Recreation Sports, Route 13 in Newfield. Get outside and ride.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds.
If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show,
25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5. There we go. There we go. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And on Zoom this morning, we have former Congressman Tom Reed. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing well, Frank. Good to see you.
We were talking off the air. How was the eclipse?
It was wonderful. I couldn't get a flight to D.C. because I commute to D.C. every week, Tuesday to Thursday, and so I started down the road, saw it on the side of the highway, and then entered into 14 hours of driving down from Erie, Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh, and bumper to bumper traffic. Not a very smart thing to do, Frank. No. I hope that everybody enjoyed it. It was beautiful.
Now, Tom, we haven't talked since then, but the sad news that Joe Lieberman passed away, and I know that No Labels is something that you've been a part of, and obviously Joe Lieberman was a part of. I thought maybe you could speak to that and the recent announcement by No Labels.
Yeah, no, Joe Lieberman obviously was one of the good guys in Washington, D.C. I got to know him very well, spent a lot of time with him personally. And, he put country over party, was truly the statesman that he was. And he was just a great mentor, one of those individuals that you'll look up to. You're blessed to be able to cross paths with him in life. And his passing was a complete surprise. I mean, for 82 years old, he was spry. I just talked to him the week before, saw him. He was in great shape. But that just reminds us that each and every one of us, we never know the hour, we never know the minutes, we never know the day when he calls us home. And at the end of the day, you just got to live life as fullest as you can. And that was what Joe Lieberman did as a statesman and a good man.
Now, in regards to No Labels, Tom, I know there was talks for quite some time that there's going to be a potential third-party candidate from No Labels. Where is that at?
Yeah, so disappointment on that front, and that we got access to 21 states to be on the ballot in the presidential election at No Labels, and we were going to field a candidate, a Republican and a Democrat, as an alternative choice to the two parties that we have here with Trump and Biden on the Republican and Democrat ticket, and we weren't able to attract a candidate. It tells me and it reminds me that changing politics outside of the Democrat and Republican norm, the status quo, is hard. And the folks that were courted, I mean, we had some top-notch people as publicly reported. We had people like Chris Christie, the Lieutenant Governor of Georgia. There were many others that were being asked to consider. It's time to unite the country. It's time to lead and inspire the country again. And just no candidate stepped forward and willing to sacrifice their political career going forward in the Democratic Republican Party, because that essentially is what it would have taken. But at the end of the day, the effort was not for naught. It organized the silent majority of Americans that if you look at the numbers, if you just talk to people in the local diners and everywhere else, there is at least 80 million people that we've identified by name, address, location, and their party affinity and propensity, the way they think politically. And I'll just tell you, that voice is going to be heard, and it's going to take D.C. some time to catch up to it, because the American people are not satisfied, in my humble opinion, that these two individuals out of the Republican Democratic nominee, President Biden and President Trump, are who we're presenting to get us through the turmoil of the next 4 years. The next 4 years is going to be extremely difficult times. I don't think people realize how bad it is out there, not just here domestically, with the economy, this runaway spending that is going to cause this inflation. You need to understand what I've learned in Washington, D.C. They don't care about balancing the budget. Republicans and Democrats, they just don't care.
Right.
They think they can just spend money endlessly and there's no consequences to it. And the arrogance that I've talked to these leaders in Washington, D.C. astounds me. It blows my mind. They're willing to risk the entire American economy. That means you. That means us. That means your ability to take care of your family by putting food on the table and a roof over their head. They're willing to risk it all because they're so arrogant. They figured out a new way that they don't have to balance the books and just print money and people are going to accept it. That's another conversation another day.
But you talk about the dysfunction in Washington and just in Congress in general. But what a scary time, Tom. We've talked about it so often, and I want to hear your concerns. But when you see Iran start to make threats against Israel, you see what's happening in Israel against Hamas, and when you talk about Russia and China being involved, I find this terrifying every morning when I turn on the news to see what's next.
Everybody should be terrified, Frank, in my humble opinion. And I'm not just trying to be dramatic. It is a reality that we face. And America has gone through this before. And I encourage people, read history. If you read history, it is amazing how much wisdom you can gain as to what's going on today in the world, both here in our country as well as around the world. And exactly what you're saying is exactly correct. The world senses that America's power center is weakening, that America is crumbling from within because it doesn't have any leaders anymore. It doesn't have that inspirational can-do attitude that has served us so well for hundreds, 200 plus years. And we're facing a moment of breaking in our own country. So others in the world are stepping forward. Right. And the others in the world that are stepping forward is China, Russia, and Iran. And they're in that order. And don't ever get them out of order. China's leading this change of this geopolitical shift. And they have the economic and political as well as the numbers, just with people-wise, in order to lead it. And Russia's more than happy to join them. And Iran is more than willing to join that axis of power. And it's like World War II all over again.
It really
you get
is.
these countries that rise up and they say, you know what, your time is over, America, or your time has yet come, and we're going to step into this abyss and lead, not with democracy, but with socialism, with controlled dictatorship type of activities. And it should scare us all. And Ukraine and Israel, they're just the tip of the iceberg as to what is occurring as we sit here day to day.
Why do you think China hasn't been taken more seriously, this threat, Tom? Do you think it is the money involved?
Of course.
Yeah.
It's the money and the power. You need to understand the magnitude of the size of this giant that has awakened and come to maturity in China. The amount of economic might that they have, and just the people alone, and also now the alliances that they have made around the country. They have invested trillions of dollars, say the Belt and Road Initiative. Look at what they're doing in Northern Africa. Look what they're doing in South America. The investments that they are making. They're not investing those things for free,
right?
Out of the goodness of their hearts. They're not really interested in rising up Africa into a stable democracy. They're interested in just hardcore power and resources and things of that nature. And they have a whole different world view as to how this is going to go forward. So I'm very concerned as to what's going on with China, but it all impacts us.
Right.
That's what you also have to remember, right? It all flows back to us. Our American lifestyle, our American belief structure is going to face a test, again, like we always do. We faced it in the 60s. We faced it in the 40s of the 1900s. We've had moments where our country, I mean, we faced it in the 1800s with the Civil War. You face these moments as a democracy if you study history, and one is coming. One is coming. And it's going to take leadership. It's going to take adults. It's going to take statesmen. It's going to take folks that are willing to not be afraid to go across the aisle, to go across to your neighbor and say, you know what? I don't agree with that. I don't agree with President Biden's socialism, trying to give everything away for free, and not relying upon what made us great as a country, as a proud Republican that I am. That's individual responsibility. That's individual accountability. It's individualism with the protection of a government that's going to limit itself to just keeping us safe. That's why we have a strong military. Keep us safe and keep it fair so we have an opportunity to succeed on our own merit. That's what America's all about. And we'll rise again to the challenge, but it's going to get very bumpy.
And I think, I don't know if it starts here, because like you said, it's already started. When you look at Taiwan, what China has continued to propose, what happens if they do go in and try to take Taiwan?
I'll make a prediction right now. They're going to take Taiwan, and they're not even going to fire a shot, because we do not have the political fortitude or the economic support and the alliances that we need in order to stand up to that challenge. And in my humble opinion, China is going to take Taiwan by just walking across the strait. It's not going to be a military acquisition. It is just going to be a reality that we're going to have to face. You look at what's going on in Israel.
Right.
Israel, a staunch ally of America. We are sending signals that Hamas and others and Iran and Hezbollah, you got the Sunni, you got the Shiite factions, and you're sending signals as the world power that we are, that, you know what, it's okay. Israel is going to be taken out. And I don't believe that's going to happen. I think Israel's too strong and it has too many alliances around the world to protect it. But there is going to be a challenge here very shortly where Israel's going to face a moment where Iran may, led by others, that axis of power, Russia and China, participating, may just say, you know what, it's time. And it may be a miscalculation, but it's going to have a miscalculation that has devastating consequences to folks around the world, as well as here in America.
Well, and it's so sad that when you see President Biden start so strong with support for Israel and then get to the point to where we're at today, and in my opinion, all because of worried about the vote in November.
Yeah, politics.
I know.
You have to understand within the Democratic Party, the hard left of the Democratic Party is running the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders sitting elbow in elbow 3 days ago with President Biden, celebrating their successes in the Biden administration. That was a deal that was struck. People don't realize this. There was a Thursday night back when Biden looked like he was going to lose the primary election back in 16. And Bernie said, okay. They went to Bernie and said, you got to get out of the way. And they cut a deal. And Bernie said, yeah, I'll get out of the way, but you're going to take my Build Back Better plan. And that is going to be the cornerstone of your administration. You can talk like a moderate, you can talk like the Joe Biden of yesterday, but the core policy changes are going to be implemented that Bernie Sanders led. And so that's exactly what is occurring here. And so when Bernie Sanders says we're not going to stand with Israel, when a faction of the Democratic Party that is now the tail wagging the dog demands that, you got no leadership in a president that, with all respect to the presidency, but a president that is not the Joe Biden I knew from 20 years ago and worked with when he came to Rochester, New York. You have a whole different situation of a lack of leadership and strength that is willing to acquiesce to that. And the people around him, remember, the presidency is more than just one man.
Right.
And the people around him are acquiescent to that wing because it's the politically expedient path to take. It's not leadership, it's just following.
Well, looking back at the history of it all, were you surprised that Chuck Schumer changed so quickly? Or do you think that's just the Democrat Party's now for the votes?
It's another confirmation to me that the Democratic Party is being controlled by that tail that's wagging it. And that's that hard faction on the left. Now, we got the same problem on the Republican side.
Oh, sure.
Don't get me wrong. This extremism is not just limited to Democrat alone. We do have some extremists on the Republican side that, I respect. I listen to them. I embrace some of their concepts, but they've gone way too far in regard, in my opinion, at this point in time, with that extreme version maybe libertarianism, maybe extreme republicanism. And I wouldn't even call it the MAGA. I mean, those are all DC terms. The MAGA movement is made up by a lot of people that are sensing and expressing their frustration of where America is going. I accept that. I respect that, and I will spend time and listen and try to unite forces in order to advance that ball every day of the week, because I believe in that substantively. But the extremism on the left and right is the real cancer that is on display in Washington and around the world now.
I think the term, at least by the media when they use MAGA and by politicians, it's almost become like the deplorables, right? Where they're using it as such a negative, and it's people that you see every day on the street that are just looking to provide for their family and enjoy life.
Yeah, and that's why DC doesn't get it. That's why when I come to DC, I tell them all the time, and they don't listen, but at least keep trying. Get out of this beltway. Stop believing the arrogance of your own self. Talk to real people. The wisdom of the American people astounds me every day when I listen to it and talk to it. As I'm doing that Eclipse 14-hour drive down the coast, I stopped at like 4 or 5 different sheets and restaurants because it took forever. I'm getting older, and I'll tell you, you just talk to people when you meet them there. I had a couple conversations with people. I was like blown away. Because we were talking about the eclipse, but then we got into politics in one conversation in particular, and because it's on their mind,
right?
Because they asked where I was going, and it's amazing. It's amazing how wise they are, and I would just hope Washington D.C. eventually wakes up. It will, but we need leaders. We need leaders that are going to stand, that aren't going to be afraid to get yelled at, aren't going to be afraid to stand firm, look people in the eye and say no, and lead. But it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take a lot of hard work.
I also wanted to ask you, Tom, because this seems to be a story that the media loves to run with, but Marjorie Taylor Greene and putting the pressure on Speaker Johnson to be ousted. Where do you see coming from that, if you just had to make a prediction?
Nothing.
Yeah.
That in my humble opinion, is someone who is just out for the show, to be perfectly honest with you. It's a P.T. Barnum type of effect, with all due respect to her. I've met her, I've tried to work with her, but I've seen and spent time with her. The real motivation is not to move that ball down down the field in regards to trying to change things in Washington, D.C. It's to use this dysfunction to get 5 minutes and then maybe an hour of fame and a lot of fundraising dollars. Right. Always follow the money. I tell people, always follow the money if you're really lost. The money tells you the story. And the bottom line is that that's what's going on there. And Mike Johnson is a good man. Mike Johnson is an honorable, honest man. He's got a learning curve to go through. And I wish he would have had a little bit more time under his belt before he got into this position. But at his core, he's an honest man, and that's going to serve him well. That is going to serve him to stay there much longer than people anticipate. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to have an endless time there.
Right.
No speaker does. But he'll get through this year. I'm very confident in that. He'll get through what needs to be done, and then we'll see what happens. And who knows if they're going to be in the majority. It looks like, my humble opinion, the Democrats are in a good position to take the House. Senate looks to be in a very good position for the Republicans to take the Senate. So you're going to have split government. And when you have split government, even more to the point, you need leaders, statesmen, people that are willing to lead and stand up and not take the easy political steps forward, but do the hard work of legislating.
And speaking of that, Tom, before we go, I wanted to mention this because a lot of people don't realize some of us are still doing our taxes with 5 days left to go. So we're thinking about this year and maybe not next year. But there really is a tax tsunami coming next year.
It's a term I coined. The tax tsunami is coming in 2025. And what that is, in 2017, when we wrote the tax code, I lost my argument to make the tax code permanent. So you could, it was permanent policy. You wouldn't have to worry about it. But we lost that because we wanted to do it with 51 votes in the Senate because we didn't have super majorities to get 60 votes where you could do that. So we set these cliffs up under what they call reconciliation, where there are sunset provisions because of the rules process in Washington, D.C. is the #1 issue. The rules in the Senate required us to do that. So you have expirations in the tax code where individual rates on the low end to the high end are going to automatically spring back up. The standard deduction that we all got that expanded standard deduction as you fill out your get your refund this year. That's going to be cut in half. You have international provisions, manufacturing provisions for our manufacturers, where they're looking at some of the most significant, to almost $2 trillion worth of tax increases are going to happen automatically, because of how we designed the tax cut bill of 2017 because of politics and the process that we had to deploy. So every American is looking at a tax increase in 2025, and it's going to require 60 votes in the Senate and a majority in the House in order to avoid that tax tsunami cliff that is coming, that we did intentionally. I'll be perfectly honest with you. We did it intentionally when we went down this path because we pitted the stakeholders together, individuals, mom and pops, the children tax credit, issues with manufacturers. Your estate exposure is going to double, if not significantly increase. When you die, they're going to take your property. All of those things were done in order to force the stakeholders to get in the room and say, this is ludicrous. We cannot have people making $50,000 a year looking at a tax increase because of what's going to happen with the code. So we have to cut a deal. We have to cut a deal to avoid this cliff of this tax tsunami that's coming. And if we don't have leaders, I'm telling you, it's going to be politics, and all they're going to do is point fingers at each other. Democrats and Republicans thinking they're going to get a political edge in the next election. And you know who suffers in all that? Who suffers in that,
Us.
Frank? You know the answer.
Us, all of us.
Us.
Yes. Yeah.
The American people. And that's what I keep telling my colleagues. I go, don't even get close to the cliff.
Right.
And you're going to, I predict you're going to see the little countdown on Fox News. The tax tsunami washes ashore here in 20 minutes.
Yeah. I know.
Or 2 weeks and 4 days. Whatever. I mean, it's so much theater. It blows my mind. But I'll tell you, I'm still in the game. I'm still fighting. I'm not wearing, I don't have the title per se. I'm a former member, but I am using our relationships and the work I do in order to advance that cause, because I'm a proud American at my core. And that is what we all need to do as we go forward in the next few elections.
Tom, before we go, what's new? Everything good?
Everything's good. We got the law firm in Rochester, Rizzo.
How's he doing?
Reed and O'Brien. Yeah, we're doing very well. The firm's doing well. I have my job here on K Street, so I'm right next to with the White House, 2 blocks away.
Very nice.
So fighting the fight for folks in regards to our advocacy work. And then I also got a 501c4 and C3 organization that I set up with Larry Hogan and Max Rose. Max Rose, a former member from New York on the Democratic side, to focus on this issue, the Committee of the American Majority, to try to be a body that's listening to those millions of Americans out there and saying, you know what, it's time to lead. And let's have a debate about real issues and solving problems for the American people rather than playing politics all the time.
Well, Tom, thanks so much for doing this. Let's do it again soon, okay?
Always, Frank. You know I'm in your corner, and I appreciate what you do.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Stay tuned to get this 5-piece bakeware set, a $60 value, absolutely free. Tired of that pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before.
Gosh, what I love most about this design is this hammered copper look. It would just look so fantastic hanging in my kitchen.
Wow, this is a beautiful pan. It looks great. Look at those eggs dancing around in there. I tell you, I'm sold. Where do I get these? I love them.
Hammered pans are ultra non-stick. Nothing sticks. Even gooey mac and cheese slips out with ease. And look, these sticky candies melted with a torch are no match for hammered pans. Plus, they're super durable, so use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips out and a pan that looks just like new. They're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie, cheesy lasagna, or this whole chicken dinner. Any recipe looks great in these pans. From steak flambe to delicious desserts and delicate fish, nothing sticks. Plus, the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Similar sets are over $1,000, but you won't pay that. Not $500 or even $300. Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99, and we'll even guarantee it for a full 10 years. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. Together, these are an $80 value, yours 100% free. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
To order, call 1-800-603-3404 or go to buyhammered.com. That's 1-800-603-3404, or you can order online at buyhammered.com.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Thank you to former Congressman Tom Reed for being our guest on Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I got to take another break because I ran a little bit long, but I've got to highlight. Thank you for all the text. When we were on Zoom, it's a little more difficult to read the text at the same time without him going away from the screen. So I apologize I didn't get to ask all of your questions. Great questions, though. How can we talk so much of the Trump agenda and not support the strong leadership of Trump? Won't that be saving of America? Thank you. The next viewer. Without an unbiased legacy media, how does Tom think we can get back to a government that is truly working for the American people? That's a great question. I wish I would have been able to ask Ken. And one other. America is no longer of the people, by the people. It's by who can get elected. It's become all about the election process and votes and not about what is good for the people. Yeah, I think a prime example of that is President Biden's change on his Israel stance, saying essentially he's willing to throw Israel under the bus for votes. So I think those are all great questions or great comments. I really appreciate it. We've got a few other things we're going to get to. I do have to take another short break, but it was good to hear from former Congressman Tom Reed. I'm glad he comes on because he has been very outspoken about China wanting to become a world superpower for quite some time. So I always think it's nice to pick his brain on that as someone that's watched it maybe a little bit longer than some of us. I do think, as he said, Taiwan, it's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. And that's very troubling. I've heard some people make the prediction, well, depending on how the election goes, it could do it right before, let's say Trump wins, right before Trump takes over, because of that perceived weakness. So please keep those comments coming in. We do have quite a few more things to get to, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New vehicles are in-house and on display with more on the way. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, visit Elm Chevrolet. Search Elm Chevrolet's entire new vehicle inventory at elmchevrolet.com. Together, let's drive.
Hi, and welcome everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that we have agents standing by right now to answer your legal questions. So if you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, call now. Find out if you have a case and how much is potentially worth. I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin. So Tom, tell everyone watching at home who should call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the studio. Now, as far as who should call in, the answer is anyone who's been injured in an accident that was not your fault should give us a call right now. Agents are standing by to answer any questions you may have and tell you how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. So what kind of calls are we seeing today?
Well, Gina, we're getting calls about all types of accidents, but the most common has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, take that first step and give us a call. We'll answer your questions and you'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. Call now.
It's Masked Mania Transformers.
We are ready.
The robots in disguise meet a wild card surprise.
I think this is Terry Crews.
Michael Irvin.
Deion Sanders.
Tonight. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. So I've been mentioning this all morning. Trump's campaign is relying on Melania as a secret weapon to win undecided voters as she hosts a fundraiser. Melania Trump's headlining fundraiser later this month is part of a strategy to portray the former First Lady as a softer, more moderate voice for the Trump campaign. Now, does that signal the direction they'll go when they make their VP pick? I don't have an answer. That's interesting. While Donald Trump will join his wife at the April 20th fundraiser hosted at Mar-a-Lago by the Log Cabin Republicans, insiders said the campaign intends to put and keep Melania in the spotlight as the feminine counterpoint to his brash style. The Trump campaign recognizes that Melania is their secret weapon. Her appeal is critical to win battleground states and undecided voters, especially now that they've won the primary and are hyper-focused on the general. This is just the beginning of us using softer faces and voices as surrogates. Indeed, Democrat strategists said that. That's weird. They're coming up with a more diverse picture. They're trying to make voters feel more comfortable. All right, that's cool. I think Melania does a good job when she's out there on the trail, so why not? Oh, now I feel like I'm playing catch up with all the things I said we might get to. So Rob Schneider, okay, I'm doing good on time. Rob Schneider, the comedian, he was on Saturday Night Live. He does quite a bit of things with Adam Sandler. He says he is supporting independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is what he said. Schneider described Kennedy as a friend who he believes is talking about the things that matter to the American public. Schneider discussed why healthcare is one of the top reasons he is supporting Kennedy. We spent 5 times more than they do in Europe for healthcare. And we have way worse results. We can't have 60% of the American population unhealthy, 54% of children. That needs to be the biggest story for you guys in all mass media. The fact that children have chronic illnesses at over 50%. That's a 10 to 12-year-old statistic. So we have to get people healthy. He also talked about not getting involved in forever wars. He's talking about things that really matter, said Schneider. He added that people are getting tired of being offered the same thing, referring to the upcoming presidential rematch. It's entrenched power, and right now the Democrats have the entrenched power. Though I do have to say it's kind of ironic saying that Kennedy doesn't have entrenched power. But the Democrats now suddenly turned out not to be the party of the people. Now that it is the party of forever wars and the party of censorship. Then that's direct proof now, thanks to Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion. A nice little thing to do on a weekend is that you could see what they're actually talking about. Collusion with Russia. We have collusion, First Amendment. And of course, the Justice Department did nothing about it. But there's proof that the United States government colluded and told social media what they wanted to do. And that's a direct violation of America's First Amendment rights. Only in the new Socialist Democratic Party, they should change their mind to reflect who they really are now. Will the son of Robert F. Kennedy and nephew of Democrat icon JFK be forced from the party that has used their names for decades, all because he had the gall to point out the obvious, that Joe Biden is not prepared to lead this country for 4 more years? Anyone with eyes knows that fact. Wow, so getting some support there. I know that the media obviously has been in full attack mode on Kennedy, and that's why I wanted to mention it, because I would say that in that instance, Rob Schneider is kind of the person that may be more apt to go for a Kennedy, and he telling us his reasons for that. All right, where else do we want to go? Arizona, if you're just tuning in, if you're just waking up, the big story is Arizona Supreme Court rules a near total abortion ban from 1864 is enforceable. The swing state ruling delivered a massive political gift to Democrats. I reported on this earlier. That's according to Axios. Axios believes that this is what, and to their point, Democrats are already campaigning on abortion. So they're saying the optics on this, the timing on this is really good for Democrats. But as President Trump's spokesperson said, Trump could not have been more clear. These are decisions for people of each state to make. All right, let's take our last break as we wrap up this edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you again to former Congressman Tom Reed. I thought there was a lot of good takeaways from that interview. A lot of, I think, important notes to pay attention for, especially that Taiwan, especially the tax tsunami that's coming up next year, as you are hopefully almost done with your taxes, if not fully done with your taxes. I know you're not focused on next year, but maybe it's time to focus a little bit on it, at least if you're a politician in Washington. Get your last minute comments in before we wrap up on this morning's edition of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
The window is closing soon. If you've been waiting to file your Camp Lejeune claim, the window to make claims is now limited to a matter of weeks. Military personnel, their families, and civilians who lived, worked, or were stationed on Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987 and suffered any of the injuries on your screen. Call the Victims Justice Group now. Even if you were turned down before, recent changes in accepted injuries means you may now qualify. This may be your last chance to claim the expedited settlement amounts of $100,000 to $550,000 for those exposed to the toxic water at Camp Lejeune for at least 30 days. The window to make claims is now limited to a matter of weeks. If you or a loved one suffered any of the conditions listed on your screen and lived, worked, or served on Camp Lejeune for at least 30 days from August 1953 through December 1987, don't delay. Call the Victims Justice Group helpline now to see if you qualify.
Saturday on Fox. It's the annual Scarlet and Gray game.
The new era begins today.
In a pivotal year for head coach Ryan Day, Ohio State looks to rise to the top of college football once again.
Are you kidding me?
Who will be the next Buckeye QB?
Wow, how about that?
Or the next great receiver?
Buckeye Nation has been waiting for this moment.
It all begins with the annual Ohio State Spring Game. Saturday at noon Eastern on Fox.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, this is where we go through kind of quickly and cover all the things we haven't had an opportunity to yet today. So Joe Biden's insane asylum policy, I know that's a weird way they worded that at the New York Post, but the asylum policy makes life easier for criminals moment they legally enter the U.S. And it's a really interesting piece. Michael Goodwin put this all together, but it kind of shows the process. And it's not based off of a book or something, but it's the actual process of what the asylum seekers go through. And it's pretty easy. And so I thought if you were not busy today and you're looking for something to read, where are the politicians and prosecutors, Goodwin asks. Why do they stand mostly mute as the city is being destroyed, one ransacked business at a time? We know where the state attorney general and the Manhattan district attorney are. They abdicated their jobs to protect the public and instead are engaged in obsessive partisan hunts for their white whale. Even if they bankrupt and imprison Donald Trump, it won't stop a single one of the many perps carrying out the widespread shoplifting, physical assaults, robberies, and car thefts, driving New Yorkers to safer climates. The state and the feds both have chipped in more cash, though city taxpayers are still footing the bulk of the billions in costs. Governor Hochul also has never complained about the open border. She did try to get the legislature to agree to a retail theft strategy, but Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie doesn't believe penalties actually deter lawbreakers. Yes, he really said that. So if Hochul gets anything passed, it will be watered down to the point of being useless. And so it goes in the daily march to the bottom. The politicians' callous indifference serves as a reminder of one of the great lies. The government is here to help. And that was, I thought, tied in pretty well with some of the things we were talking about this morning, politicians being for themselves. But there is the background as well at the New York Post about how New York City has made it very difficult, basically a logistical headache to deport migrants accused of a crime in New York City. Immigration experts told the Post on Tuesday that it can be hard both legally and logistically for the feds to remove migrants before they've committed a crime. Before they're convicted of a crime, excuse me. They said some of the difficulty stems from the city's sanctuary laws, which bar local police from contacting U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement or honoring detainers the federal agency puts out. A current ICE official told the Post that the sanctuary city laws are helping propel the recent crime wave, which includes the April 2nd incident in which 2 Venezuelan migrants accused of shoplifting in Manhattan fought back during arrest. The NYPD, the official said, will not contact immigration at all. All right, now we're moving fast. Now we are moving fast. Oh, good. No, we're not doing too bad. I had mentioned this with the former Congressman, Tom Reed, about Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of escalating the pressure on Speaker Johnson, this coming from CNN. But Marjorie Taylor Greene issued a searing indictment of House Speaker Mike Johnson's leadership in a new letter sent to her Republican colleagues yesterday. According to a copy that was shared with CNN, in a significant escalation of her rhetoric as she tries to build support for potentially ousting Johnson. While Greene does not indicate if or when she plans to force a floor vote on Johnson's removal, the scathing rebuke marks her first direct pitch to the House GOP conference to join her push and indicates she is not backing down from her threat as lawmakers return to Washington following a 2-week recess. I'm not sure where this will actually go. I've mentioned I'm not a big fan of it. I know Tom didn't think that anything was going to happen to Mike Johnson, that this is more of a Marjorie Taylor Greene, kind of looking for some publicity, some fundraising. I think there's a point to that. I don't see what the benefit would be now. Here we are, April, looking for an election in November. Why would we cause that kind of a headache? At a time when Washington doesn't have the best reputation, needless to say. In the letter, Greene laid out a detailed case against the Speaker, accusing Johnson of failing to deliver on promises he ran on and breaking legislative procedural rules. She even blamed him for jeopardizing the House Republican majority by not doing more to prevent some retiring GOP members from leaving Congress early. Mike Johnson has unfortunately not lived up to a single one of his self-imposed tenets, Greene wrote. He is throwing our razor-thin majority into chaos by not serving his GOP conference that elected him. I think it's chaos like this that is causing a lot of that jeopardy, but okay. Greene also claimed she would not tolerate, that's tough talk, Johnson's expected upcoming push to provide more aid to Ukraine, something he had voted against before he became Speaker, and pushed for reauthorization of a law that permits warrantless surveillance of foreign nationals. As I mentioned, there is a very good piece. As bird flu spreads, the Biden administration remains dangerously unprepared for another pandemic. You can check that out for yourself. We don't have time for this now. Darn it, I shouldn't have saved this till the end. W. James Antle III, who writes sometimes for CNN, he said, in a post-Roe landscape, Trump's abortion compromise has merit. Now, I was surprised to see that when it came to a CNN piece, but viewed as a starting point rather than the end game, Trump's compromise has a chance to be good politics for Republicans in this campaign. It could also be a sound strategy for a pro-life movement seeking to capitalize and prolong the post-Roe movement. Because if you're just joining us, Arizona Supreme Court rules a near-total abortion ban from 1864 is enforceable. So there we are. Well, thank you again to former Congressman Tom Reed for being our guest this morning. I always enjoy having him on the program. I forgot I have my schedule over there. I know we have a lot of guests coming up on tomorrow's show, but you'll just have to tune in to find out who they are. As always, you can get your last-minute questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, and not last minute. You can do that 24/7. Please feel free to send in at any time over email over that number on the bottom of your screen. I would love to hear from you at any time. And thank you for all the waves and for all the comments this morning. So please join us. The 2 hours is going smooth, don't you think, folks? So please join us starting tomorrow morning at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.
The window is closing soon. If you've been waiting to file your Camp Lejeune claim, the window to make claims is now limited to a matter of weeks. Military personnel, their families, and civilians who lived, worked, or were stationed on Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987 and suffered any of the injuries on your screen. Call the Victims Justice Group now. Even if you were turned down before, recent changes in accepted injuries means you may now qualify. This may be your last chance to claim the expedited settlement amounts of $100,000 to $550,000 for those exposed to the toxic water at Camp Lejeune for at least 30 days. The window to make claims is now limited to a matter of weeks. If you or a loved one suffered any of the conditions listed on your screen and lived, worked, or served on Camp Lejeune for at least 30 days from August 1953 through December 1987, don't delay. Call the Victims Justice Group helpline